What I find most amazing is the fact that there are things that we can do in our life to reduce cognitive decline. A lot of that has to do with behavior change. And so we know from consumer tech that there's a lot of ways that we can build really engaging customer journeys to get people to monetize in the way that we want. And what's fascinating about digital therapeutics is we like to build customer journeys that get people to engage in behaviors that are really healthy for them and make their lives healthier and more fulfilling in the long term.
Here we are. I'm here with Davina Pallone. Welcome, Davina.
Hi.
So thank you so much for joining us. Could you introduce yourself, what you do, and tell folks a little about how you got into tech?
Yeah, so my name is Davina Pallone, and what I do is lead product and design teams to develop hopefully very engaging products. The way I got into tech was by sort of a circuitous route. I was interested in art, and I was also interested in technology, and sort of this intersection in the mid 90s of Photoshop and basically websites started to become a thing. And so I got involved with that. I was at Michigan Tech University, and we had a really great program there with scientific and technical communication. And that grew into running my own small design agency. I basically built websites for nonprofits and small businesses for about 18 years. And then at that point, I decided that I would like to stop working in the agency life and maybe get more entrenched in a company where I could stay involved in that long-term goal and sort of not just start projects, but see them all the way through. I ended up in the Bay Area working for a company called Cloud City Development, which was ironically another agency, but they had me work for about 2 years with the Public Library of Science, and I built some content management systems for open access scientific publishing, which was really exciting. And that led to a stint for about 3 years at Pear Therapeutics, which introduced me to digital therapeutics and this idea of taking all of the most amazing things we understand about best practices in design and applying that towards clinical outcomes to help patients who are dealing with a variety of diseases such as schizophrenia or depression with multiple sclerosis or addiction. Now I'm at Neurotrack, and we're building cognitive assessments that can help people understand where their cognition is. And what I find most amazing is the fact that there are things that we can do in our life to reduce cognitive decline. And a lot of that has to do with behavior change. And so we know from consumer tech that there's a lot of ways that we can build really engaging customer journeys to get people to monetize in the way that we want. And what's fascinating about digital therapeutics is we like to build customer journeys that get people to engage in behaviors that are really healthy for them and make their lives healthier and more fulfilling in the long term.
So we're going to now launch into our Duolingo Teardown. And Davina is talking about digital therapeutics and behavior change. And as part of doing great product work in that field, one of the most useful things to do is to do some competitive analysis and really dig in and notice what's going on with the apps that do manage to engage you deeply. And that's why we're taking this deep dive look at Duolingo. We're going to use a tool called the Mastery Path and Learning Loop, which is a core part of game thinking, to do this analysis. So for those of you who are familiar with doing teardowns of various products, this is a teardown of the customer experience over time. And when you want to build long-term engagement, one of the most useful things you can do is really understand the difference between techniques that drive short-term engagement and the combination of techniques needed to drive that longer-term engagement that so many of us are after. Duolingo started with high-need superfans. Louis von Ahn started Duolingo to help the people in his native Guatemala who couldn't afford very expensive language learning apps and services to help them learn English. That's how it first got started. It's expanded greatly since then. We're going to show you a lot of those mechanics. One of the takeaways I want you to get from this teardown is that, like most huge hits, Duolingo started very small, stripped down, and with a narrow target of people that had a very real need. So before we launch in and talk about discovery, Davina, tell us how you first discovered Duolingo. What motivated you to pick up and start using this app?
Really, it was moving to the Bay Area. I had taken Spanish at university, and that was many, many moons ago. And so when I moved to the Bay Area, I really wished that I spoke Spanish better. And I was not in any university courses. I didn't plan on being. I was working full time. I had a lot of stuff going on. And so I was, I knew about things like Pimsleur or other language courses that you can enroll in or purchase for a lot of money. But I really wanted something that I could do quickly. Hopefully it would be fun. It would be easy. The one question you ask is there an app for that? And there was. I discovered Duolingo, and I became, instantly enamored with how they approached learning.
Right. Discovery is the phase where you're just finding out about an app and deciding if it's for you. We like to write job stories to go along with these stages of the customer experience. And you can see here, this job story really reflects Davina's experience. Her trigger was a little different, but what Davina was looking for was really made very clear by Duolingo. So a good takeaway for everyone watching is to really think about in your advertising, in your social media, in everything that someone sees while they're deciding whether or not to use your product, the clearer you can make it about what it is and what the value prop is, the better off you're going to be with the results of your outreach. And here you can see Duolingo has a bus stop ad that really plays into that learning conveniently on the go idea. Duolingo is also free. And one of the biggest value props, the thing that you see in the App Store and when you first download Duolingo, is that it's free, which is a big contrast to other language learning apps like Rosetta Stone, which are many, many hundreds of dollars. So then we get into onboarding, which is how you start to learn the ropes. And this is really about, is this thing going to work for me? How quickly can I get value? How can I avoid wasting my time if I pick the wrong app? Do I want to go deep into it? You really want to get that hit of value quickly during onboarding. So Duolingo does this in an interesting way. You, of course, choose your language, but then you can pick a goal and how intensely you want to engage. And you can also choose to test out of a language. If you are intermediate but rusty at a language, you don't have to start as a rank beginner. You can choose to take a placement test. Now, how did this work out for you, Davina, when you started using Duolingo?
Yeah, I liked the daily goal, and it made it easy for me to say, yeah, I think I can do this amount of time every day. I didn't at that point understand how they work that goal setting into your journey, but I understand that a lot better now. And then as far as my path for Spanish, when I was presented with this, I chose to enter as a beginner because it had been 15 years since I had had a Spanish class. And so I decided I just want to hear it all over again. I don't want to test out of anything, but I like the idea that it can jump somebody in as not a beginner because they do have quite a bit of content. And even if you jump in somewhere in the intermediate phase, they still have a lot for you to do.
This kind of technique is especially useful for apps that really build your skill, where, if you use it for 1, 2, 3 weeks, you'll have a different skill level in some sense. Yeah. So Duolingo is a great example of that. Headspace does something similar. They ask you if you're a beginning meditator or not. So yeah, this is a technique to definitely consider if you've got that kind of app. So habit building is really where Duolingo digs in and shines.
Yeah.
Duolingo has these short little just right challenges, which is a huge part of what makes the app work well. And it's so easy and cheap and convenient to pick up. How did this habit story play out in your life, Davina?
It worked really well for me for the first 5 years in San Francisco. I had about a 30 to 45-minute bus commute. And so this was perfect for me. So I could sit on the bus, and rather than just flipping through social media or news, I felt that I could actually pick my Spanish back up. The timing of these were just right. I could sometimes get a few lessons in if I wanted to, but because I had set that daily goal, I could also meet my daily goal just on my morning commute, or I could save it for my afternoon commute. The one interesting thing about how they walk you through each lesson is they will ask you the same thing multiple times. And that's actually something that I learned about in building a digital therapeutic. Is there's a psychological reason for repeating questions, the same question, and having you answer it multiple times. It makes it stick more. So I think that they did a good job at helping me actually remember from day to day, or if I only engaged twice a week, I remembered what I was doing, and they sort of do a really great job of driving that home.
That's so interesting. And it's really hard to do well. You could see how if you did too much reminding, it would be annoying. Not enough reminding, you don't learn as well. But there's that sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah, they change it up just enough. So they have, you can see they have a character here. They have maybe like 5 to 7 characters. I don't know exactly. That you see over and over again. And these characters show a wide range of diversity, which is also something that is near and dear to my heart. So you might see this woman, for instance, who is a Black woman. You might also see a woman wearing a hijab, who is clearly Muslim, and she's speaking Spanish. You might see an old man. You might see a young boy, an old woman. And it's really interesting how they work diversity into all of their stories. So I think many people can relate to this journey of learning a language. And then the way, so here this woman's asking you to translate, my mom always buys me dolls. They might have you retranslate the sentence in like 3 different ways. So here they're having you drag and drop the Spanish up and to complete the sentence as a translation. They might also ask you to speak that sentence translated. They might also ask you to translate it from Spanish back into English. So they're doing a really great job of the same sentence over and over again, but they're sort of switching the user interface and keeping it fresh for you so you don't feel like it's entirely repeated.
That's awesome. So for everyone joining us, if you have any questions or comments about what you're seeing, type them into the comments and my team will collect them and we'll be sure to ask them at the end. So go ahead and don't be afraid to type your comments and reactions in. So Davina mentioned these short game-like activities, and they have a little arc to them. You start them, as you can see here. Here's that same one that we were looking at before, and then when you're done with it, you get feedback how you did, and the system always is designed to serve up just right challenges. If you don't do so well, it'll ratchet you back and it'll repeat stuff to make sure you got it. If you're doing well, it'll give you new challenges. A lot of people, I think, miss that really well-tuned challenge architecture is a core part of what makes Duolingo work so well and so compelling. What was that like for you, Davina, particularly since you've learned several languages?
I just want to qualify that with, I don't know any languages really well besides English, but I have used Duolingo to poke around, definitely in Spanish, that's my strongest. Also Italian when I was going on a trip. I also poked around extremely unsuccessfully at languages like Russian and Danish and Swedish because I was going on a trip to Scandinavia. And also because I do business in Japan, interested in learning a little bit of Japanese. And so it's really nice, especially the screen here on the left, what you see is a very beginner where they introduce new words to you with a visual to help cement it in your mind. And what's really nice about that is it's kind of the way you might learn in preschool, which is where we need to take our brains back to when we're trying to absorb a new language as an adult. And so it makes it feel very, very not scary to be asked a question like this: which of these is the house? Well, it's clear which one is. And so they're being very soft and easy on you to get going, which makes that barrier to entry almost non-existent. You feel like, I can do this. They also allow you to, in the middle screen, what you don't see is, this was probably a screen where I was testing out of one level and into another. So what you don't see is that if you were actually going through the lesson, you could tap on any of the words in Spanish and get a list of what the translations are in English. So it's also easy for you. You can either decide, I'm just going to do it without kind of taking a peek at what the answer is. But if you don't feel confident, they will give you a peek to what the answer is and help you build up that confidence level yourself. And so I think in that regard, they're really building up that autonomy that you have to go through this journey in many different ways, depending on what feels comfortable to you. And I love the little bird, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great mascot.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's fun, and they have the little bird pop in. So this is mid-lesson, and you can see that it's sort of giving you a little bit of feedback midway through your lesson to, tell you that you're doing a great job. So that's that positive reinforcement that we know can also help people. And one thing you'll notice here also on the first and third screens is that there's a heart indicator, and we can touch back into that a little bit more later. But that is also a very game-like thing where it's showing you, they call this, I think, your health. Mm-hmm. And it's something that they didn't start with, that they introduced maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And if you get something wrong, you'll start to see that health meter goes down. And there is a concept of almost like game over, where you have to wait for that to build back up again.
Really interesting. So another game-like aspect is the way in which progress is communicated. We'll talk more about unlocking content, which is like the foundation of the whole thing. But Duolingo has this idea of XP, and they seem to have different kinds of XP and different ways in which you can earn it. Tell us about your experience earning XP and making progress.
Yeah, I think this is a really basic view of the XP that you would start out with when you're maybe first in the journey. And so one of the things is that every day that you do some lessons, you earn some XP. The center screen there is after completing what's called a story, and I think we'll touch in on what their stories look like later. And you earn a significant amount of experience points for completing a story. On the right here, we see that I get a little bit of 5 XP. This is probably for completing what they call tips. And so it's like a little bit of an overview of grammar, and it still takes you towards your daily goal. My daily goal when I set it a few years ago in Duolingo was to have, I think, 10 experience points per day in order to maintain a streak. And so you can do, so here on the left-hand screen, we see like a limited time XP boost. That's super fun if you're digging in towards XP, and later we'll see how that impacts leaderboards. So this level of XP, I think I found fine. The goal of maintaining a streak felt good. And you can see here that, they show you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like how you're maintaining your streak over time. It wasn't until maybe the end of last year that I really started to dig deep into XP, and we'll touch on that a little bit, but it backfired on me a little bit at that point.
Yeah, that's one of the big takeaways from a lot of using game techniques in apps is they can backfire in unexpected ways. So like with streaks, if you have 5 days of a streak and then you miss a day, how do you just feel awful and not want to pick up the app?
Yeah, I mean, they do have the concept of streak freeze. You can see that on the left-hand screen, or even streak repair.
Interesting.
If streaks matter to you, that's one of the things that the gems that you collect, so they've got a lot going on in Duolingo. They've got streaks, they've got experience points, they've got gems, and it's sometimes a little bit hard to figure out how you might want to use those things, but the gems can be used to repair your streak. And it does feel a bit demotivating to miss a streak. And so I have absolutely participated in the spend some gems to repair that streak, to maybe just psychologically let me feel like I'm not going to have that visual reminder of the Saturday that I did a lot of other fun things, but I lost my streak in Duolingo. And I actually found maintaining my streak over the weekends the hardest, because I wasn't on a bus, or I wasn't sort of in this work groove. And then I would find that I lost my streak. And so it's an odd way to measure success in language learning to me. But I understand that it's a really common, sort of, put the icing on top and call it gamification sort of thing. I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't know that that it's really for me the best way to measure my progress in something like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll be interested during the Q&A to see if other people have had experience. I know for some people, the streaks are very motivating, and for some people, they're incredibly off-putting. Achievements are a very, very common technique that games and apps and services use to help people gain a sense of progress and gain a sense of, oh, I've accomplished this much and there's still more to go. How did the achievements and sprinkling the achievements throughout your experience impact you psychologically and motivationally?
Yeah, not a lot. I feel like these are, they're there. And you have to sort of tap in to see that you have these rewards. I think you unlock achievements occasionally after you do whatever they're saying that you do. So, okay, advancing to the Pro League, and the leagues are a whole thing. A Sage, so you've earned a certain amount of experience points. A Scholar, you learned 2,000 new words in a single course. That's probably one of the most interesting ones to me, because I'm here to learn a language. I'm not here to gain experience points. I'm honestly not here to advance in a league. And so the Scholar is perhaps the most interesting to me, but these are a little bit varied. They can very easily sort of get swept to the side. So I wouldn't say that they really impact my experience much. As a product designer and developer, I wonder, what team is responsible for doing that? And, do they feel like they're really having an impact on daily engagement and stuff like that? How do they measure their metrics, and how do they try to insert this feature more into the actual journey? And I'm not quite sure that they've nailed it yet.
It would be really interesting to hear about the history. Don't hold me to this. I'm not 100% sure. And if anyone can correct me, go for it. But I think this is one of the earliest mechanics that was introduced in Duolingo. I know it was there several years ago. And one of the things I know from all of my work with startups is achievements, AKA badges, are one of the most common and easiest to implement mechanics.
Yeah.
So sometimes people start with them because they're easy and they're implementable, or maybe they meet someone who has a platform and they use that. There's a much longer conversation about how achievements intersect with other gaming systems. But I think the takeaway is what Davina said, which is she's here to learn a language, not to rack up achievements and points. So always making sure that your mechanics support the key goal of your user is a great heuristic. Streaks. Here's our fun streak. So here you start to see the streak repair, and you can double your wager, double or nothing. Can you talk a little bit about what you thought and the psychology going on behind this and just how it impacted you?
Yeah, I think in general, I'm relatively ambivalent about streaks in any app. With Duolingo, it's presented to me as a measure of my dedication to learning a language. And so I do question whether or not that's the right measurement. And I've definitely participated in this. So I have used streak freezes. I've purchased those. I have used the monthly streak repair that you get, and you can see that I've subscribed to Plus. So these are some screenshots from Plus, and that's a thing that Plus allows you to do is automatically, you've missed your streak, repair it. In the end, it doesn't impact how I'm learning the language. I think it's meant to keep me coming back every day. It's meant as an encouragement to make sure that I don't drop off in my language learning.
Right.
It's again, I'm ambivalent about it. And when we get into the leaderboards, I found a really interesting interaction between streaks and leaderboards. And we can
want to hear about that.
I'll definitely talk about it when we get to the leaderboards.
Okay, a little foreshadowing. I can't wait. So I think the other thing about streaks and gems and all of that is Duolingo, as we mentioned right at the beginning, is free, but it's not free to build. So they have to find a way to monetize it. And there's a few ways. There's ads, But there's also IAP, in-app purchases, microtransactions.
Mhm.
And that's really what you're seeing here is you're seeing an IAP strategy for monetization. And, you know, in gaming, in particular in casual gaming, we deal with this all the time. There's one question, which is how do we create a great player experience? The second question is, how do we do that and make enough money to survive and thrive out of this game? So sometimes when you look at an app like Duolingo and you look at issues like what is there to sell and what can you do? And is that really helping you learn? Sometimes something might not be exactly targeted to helping you learn, but it's actually targeted to making the game sustainable financially. And that's a big reality. And it's also, there's a lot of art that goes into monetizing something so it's still pleasurable.
Yeah.
And we'll dig into that in a future teardown. Quickly though, what we're talking about here is Duolingo's learning loop. And I want to just show you what that looks like. The trigger is, as Davina said, get a daily update. Maybe your streak is running out. Maybe you're just going to France in a week, like I was about to, but it got canceled. And you know, you want to learn. So there's some trigger that makes you log into the app. If you set a goal, it starts to give you those notifications. The core activity is completing these mini games, these activities. All the streaks and leaderboards and leagues, and it's really fun. And that gives you meta activities, I would say, other fun stuff to do. But all of it rests on the strength of these mini games that it's delivering up at just the right level of challenge. Then each mini game, after you're done with it, you get feedback and rewards. It might be, you know, you've earned an achievement. It might just be your feedback was you did great and now you can go on. The feedback might be, oh, you didn't do so well. Let's go repeat that. But there's always this feedback loop where you know how you did. And that's the thing that helps you get better. You can't build someone's skill without feedback. And then for the investment and progress, you've seen a number of ways Duolingo communicates progress, from XP to streaks to levels and even going into plus. But the core investment you're making is learning, and unlocking content, which I'll show you in a minute, is the most structurally fundamental way that Duolingo creates progress. And it's real progress, meaning you can now take on more difficult challenges because you've learned some aspects of a language. So the content unlocking and the tuning of that content is a foundation that most people don't pay attention to or see really or notice, but none of that gamification would work unless that content unlock path was extremely good and well-tuned. So now let's go on to mastery, where you've learned the ropes, you've done a few basic things, and now you're going deeper. Lots of people never get there. Lots of people pick up Duolingo for a week or so, and that's it. But some people like Davina go deeper. So let's look at what that experience is. So the mastery story is really about if I persist and use, engage with this and use it, I want results. One story might be, I want to see how much I've accomplished and how far I have to go. I want to be able to see that so I can stay motivated. And that's where the content unlocking system really shines. Davina, can you talk a little bit about this system and how that drove your experience of learning these languages or starting to learn them?
Yeah, I think this is the most fun part of Duolingo. And it's, so when you first land on this page that shows you everything that you can learn in the language, it scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. And so you can see how far can I go in this. And I've seen games like that where you can see all the levels that go up and you start, and you unlock, level 1 and you go down a path and you get into level 2. So this is very game-like. And it's exciting to see how far you can go. And then they're using great visuals, great graphics, and they have a lot of different little things that they put on here to show you how you're advancing. So for instance, in the left-hand screen for Spanish, you can see here that they've got a little castle that shows that you're at maybe checkpoint number 1, very Mario-like in a sense. You can also go back to the previous section and you can level up in those sections. So you can see that I mean, you can see if you've got really good eyes, you can see that shopping and school are at level 3, and I believe people is at level 2.
That's right.
And in the right hand for Japanese, you can see that the hiragana 3 and 4 are not even at level 1, but hiragana 2 is at level 1. So you can keep going back, and you can do one of two things. You can either test into the next level. And so for what I had this moment last year where I got really caught up in the experience points and in the leaderboards. And so one of the things that I could do to earn the experience points the fastest, because I have a background in Spanish, is I would go back to the very earliest parts here, and I would take a quiz to jump from level 2 to level 3, for instance. And it would get me more experience points at once than going through each lesson. On the previous screen, we saw that there were some, like a little progress bar that goes around that outside circle. Yeah, so you can see that some of these on animals and phrases, basics has completed, but then we have phrases as partway, because if you're going to actually step through all the lessons to take you from level 2 to level 3 in phrases, you have maybe like 5 or 6 lessons to go through, and it takes you a lot more time. So you can actually jump between those levels and earn more experience points. So they have a lot of things going on and packed into this really nicely done graphic. It gives you a fun little thing that, you know, shows you what you might learn. It gives you a progress meter to show if you're taking the traditional path through to get to the next level. It gives you a marker about what level you've been at. It shows you the uncolored and locked items that you can't get to yet until you finish. Like until you finish family, you're not going to get down to those little grayed out versions down there. And it also gives you markers that sort of show you going through major sections of the language. So they've packed a ton into this one screen. And I'm just a big fan of this. I think it's really fun. And I think that this is very motivating. Like I want to unlock Intro 1 badly, but you can also see that I've sort of, you know, well, you can't see here. I have redone the hiragana lesson so many times because it's just not really sticking in my head. And they've got to teach me the alphabet before they can teach me the language here.
Right. I think there's really great insights here for every product designer about information display. I mean, This is very gamey. It's also just good design.
It's just good design. Yeah.
Oh, leagues and leaderboards. You know, I didn't even know about this till you and I started talking about, because I didn't go as deep as you did. Tell us about leagues and leaderboards.
So at some point I decided to upgrade to Plus. They've got some good, you know, they had a good enough, I guess, intro to what Plus membership would get me that I decided to take the plunge. One of them was to get rid of the ads at the end of every lesson. I just didn't want to see the ads anymore. The other one was I didn't want to have the health meter. Once they introduce that, and if you get 5 things wrong, they make you pause. It doesn't take a lot of time, but let's just say I'm on my bus ride. I'm not paying attention. I do 5 stupid things, and now my heart meter is gone, and I actually don't have enough time to have it build up again before I get off the bus and have to go to work. So it was a little annoying to me, so I decided to upgrade. I don't know if the leaderboards show up when you are not a Plus member. I suspect that they do. So here I'm getting more into it. I joined as a Plus member. I discover these leaderboards, and after I can't remember exactly how, but I learned that I had started on a certain league, like the Bronze League or something like that, and so I started to dig into this, and I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. So here you see that they've got, so the way they do it is is when you do a lesson, you're added to whatever leaderboard is open at the time. And 50 people can be in one one league. And after 50 people, I think they open up another league, and they just keep doing that. So if you're doing it every day, this is where streaks and their leagues are a little at odds with each other. So if you really care about having a streak, that means every day you're going to be doing a lesson. That means they close the leagues on Sunday afternoon, I think, or evening. And then if you do your Monday lesson, you're added to one of the very first leagues. You've got some people that I swear all they do is Duolingo. And so if you are joining a league on a Monday and it goes all the way through Sunday, you're going to be in competition with some people who are spending some serious time, and their amount of experience points to get you into what's called here the promotion zone, so the top 10, to promote to the next league, it can get really, really high. You can have people with like thousands and thousands of experience points if you want to be in that level. Now, if you set your goal to be like maybe 10 experience points every day, you're going to fall into what they call the league demotion zone. You're going to be like maybe in the bottom 10 of that league. And so as I began to understand this, I was like, well, if you care about streaks, you're going to have to bust your ass if you also care about promoting yourself through leagues, because you're going to have to compete with people who have a lot of experience points. And I don't know, these people are retired or this is what they do for a living. Who knows? They spend a ton of time on Duolingo. But if you want to advance in the leagues, the smartest thing for you to do is game the system. Join your league on Friday or maybe Saturday morning before they close leagues down. They do close leagues down and you can't join a league at a certain point. But if you join your league really late in the week, you're with a bunch of other people that started really late in the week, and the chance of the promotion zone getting up to a point that you can't enter it is smaller. It's crazy. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. When you were deep into this, did you feel it was helping you learn the language?
It was helping me for a moment in the sense that I was really putting a lot of time into it because I wanted to advance in my league. They also have an achievement that you've placed in the top 3 of your league or number 1 in your league. They have special achievement for being number 1 in your league. And so you can see here on the right-hand screen that you actually also earn a lot of gems. So you're incentivized. And when they start to close the league down, the top 3, you'll see little treasure chests next to the people who are listed in the top 3. And you really want to be one of those people. And so it really hooked me for a while. I was doing a lot of Spanish. I did feel accomplished, but at a certain point, and go to the next slide here, work would get busy or life would get busy, and then you're going to get a notification that says you fell to number 40, so this is in the bottom 10, and if you're not careful, you're going to drop back to the Emerald League. So let's just remember, in the last screen, I just busted my ass to get advanced into the Amethyst League, and now they're telling me if I'm not careful, I am going to fall back. And I can't say exactly what day this showed up. And here I only have 60 experience points, which was well above my 10 per day. Mm-hmm. And I was bummed out about that. And at a certain point, it became a lot of pressure. And so I have now taken about a 2-month break. Work got busy, the holidays got busy, and I had to kind of just let go of all of this. And I think to jump back into Duolingo, I can't get myself involved at this level. I've got to sort of find my intrinsic motivation, because I do feel like this was sort of putting an extrinsic motivation on my language learning, that at some point I felt like I was competing in leagues and it wasn't really about learning the language or mastering the language. And so I had to step back from it. That was my experience with it.
That is such an interesting story. Speaking of stories, you mentioned earlier that there's a feature called Stories that you really enjoy, and this emerges later. You don't see this right at the beginning. No. How do stories work?
So this feels relatively new. I was on Duolingo for a couple years, and I was pretty far into Spanish, and I didn't see this before. That could just be me. But I also know someone who recently started with Spanish, and stories didn't show up until they got to a particular progress level in Spanish. But then they open up these things called stories. And the stories is really, it's a conversation between 2 people. It's narrated to you. You can also read it. And then they ask you certain questions to show that you're following the story. I love these. They're a bit more engaging than just answering a series of unrelated questions. They're like little short stories. And so you follow, and they're often a bit on the ridiculous side, but they can be funny, they can be touching. They also use stories to inject a large amount of diversity. So for instance, there was a story where it was 2 gay men that had gray hair. So they were older, maybe seniors. And I just thought that was really progressive for an internationally used language app. And in general, and some of the stories are like part 1 of 2, as you can see here with Alert. They're just fun. And you also gain more experience point for stories. So when I was sort of in this, well of, really caring about experience points and leaderboards, I found it a more fun and engaging and quick way to advance in those leaderboards. So the stories are super fun. I don't think that they don't exist for every language yet. But I would hope for everybody who's learning other languages, like Japanese or something, that stories can be rolled out for those languages also, because they're engaging.
That's such a good example of great content design versus gamification.
Yeah.
You upgraded to Plus.
Yep.
Are you still hooked up with Plus, or did you downgrade?
I am. I haven't downgraded, and I have every intention of returning to Duolingo. It's like such a love-hate relationship. I love that they gamified something where instead of playing a game, I was learning a language, and there was this sweet spot where it felt like I was both playing a game and learning a language, and I was enjoying both aspects of it. I think that I burnt out, and I don't know how I'll re-engage, but I do like the Plus, especially for the lack of ads, and also the fact that I can turn off, you can see this infinity heart, so I don't have to worry about the health measure anymore. They also have something with Plus where you can measure your progress, and I find that very much tied to my goals of language learning. So you can go in for these progress checks. It's like a longer lesson. I think you aren't told whether you're correct or incorrect, and it's basically like a test. They make it harder than the lessons that you've been taking, so it's a real challenge. And it does a few things. It lets you sort of track your progress in language learning. It also shows you if you're feeling a little bit too confident how much you have to learn, because they inject some words that you haven't learned in there. And if you think you've really got this nailed, surprise, you don't. You have a lot more to learn, and it kind of keeps you hooked into wanting to get to those lessons that help you level up in Duolingo.
That's fascinating. I think for anyone who's looking at how to structure a great freemium experience, this is really worth taking a close look. By the way, thank you. I see the questions are coming in. We're going to get to those in just a moment. Keep those questions coming in. We'll do a quick summary and then address all of them. All right. What does Duolingo do well and not well? Here's a few things that it does do well. Do you want to add a little color to this?
I think this is pretty straightforward. It's really easy to use. It has a super low barrier to entry. It's fast, which fits in well with everybody's busy lifestyles, and it's fun. It's visually engaging, and they have a lot of different ways for you to engage. And I think, as we pointed out, some of those will resonate more with some users than others.
Right. It's hard to find things it doesn't do well. It's a really great app. But what we talked about was, one, this is not a complete language learning solution. You're not going to get completely fluent by using Duolingo. So if somebody really wants to get fluent, this is just a start. And that it doesn't really help you speak the language so much. So do you want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, and so they do have in their lessons options to speak something out loud, and it listens for you and it tells you if you're correct or not. They also give you the option to turn that off, and I would do that frequently. I would say I can't speak now because I would be, on a crowded minibus, and I'm just not one of those people to start speaking out loud in a language that I don't speak poorly with a bunch of strangers. So I would not do that. So I could get really far in this without actually uttering any words out loud. They do encourage you to say it out loud, but that doesn't mean that people will. And if you don't speak the language, I just don't think you're going to get fluent. And so, but still, it'll help you build your vocabulary. It'll really help you build up your reading. It will teach you a fair amount of grammar in a really light touch, low barrier to entry way.
Awesome. So Duolingo does a great job of skill building, which is making somebody more awesome at something they care about. The learning loop that we broke down and went into detail about, Duolingo has a very strong learning loop, very compelling. And that's actually the mechanic of how you make someone more skillful. And then the mastery path that we laid out for you today, from discovery all the way through mastery, is really a guidepost for how you as a product leader can create an experience that actually gets better as your customers become more skilled. Thank you so much. We are now going to switch over into question and answer. Let's take a look. Cindy Au asked, since learning is often very self-motivated, how does Duolingo help encourage users to keep going while balancing each having different needs and goals that might change over time?
Yeah, I think they'll allow you, they do in their onboarding ask you to set your goal. And you can go back and revise that goal at any time. So I think that, if you find that your goal was not ambitious enough or was too ambitious, because you're reminded of it at the end of every lesson, did you meet your goal or not? And they're doing that through experience points. So you complete a lesson or a story, or you test out of a section that is associated with a certain number of XP. Your XP translates to your goal, and you can decide at any point whether or not this is feeling right to you or if it's not. As far as, being intrinsically motivated and language learning, I think it makes it easy and fun. It would be lovely if they had some way that you could actually have conversations. That's not in there quite yet. That's possibly one of the scarier things to do in a language, is decide to speak to somebody in that language. I remember back at university, we would be asked to hold conversations in class, and I always felt very silly doing so. It's easier if you're just really forced to speak to somebody who doesn't speak your language, and you've just got to drag it out of yourself in order to communicate, and that's not quite there.
Yeah, I think, to add on to that, it's really hard to address people with different needs. Duolingo sometimes feels a bit like an everything but the kitchen sink game mechanics. There's, like you said, Davina, there's so much going on. Yeah. But I think part of what that lets you do is focus on different aspects. Like if you're really into the XP game, you can focus on that. But you can also defocus it and really enjoy the stories if that's something that engages you. I don't think Duolingo does a great job of being super engaging to every single person with wildly different needs. No app could. But sometimes having a variety of different mechanics, if you tune them right, can help different people take different paths through the experience. That's a tricky game to play, but that's certainly part of what Duolingo is doing. Eleanor asks, thanks for the great session. Glad you enjoyed it. My question is about personal learning goals. As a beginning learner in your early days, did you have any specific personal goals you wanted to reach? And do you feel Duo gave you the tools to reach your personal goals? Or did you not really have specific goals and just wanted to learn and make progress?
No, I actually do have a personal goal. I would love to be able to actually speak another language confidently. And I don't think that Duolingo has helped me get there. It has helped me ramp up my vocabulary. And it's helped me improve my grammar. I feel like I'm reading stronger than I was in Spanish prior. But I think it's not going to solve that confidence for me to actually speak. And so that's a place where I will need a different solution for that.
That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. Roger asks, can we please hear Davina speak a little Spanish? Por favor.
Oh, Roger. Mi español es... see, I can't get it out.
So Roger, we're going to have to wait on that. Another Roger, or maybe the same Roger, says, Amy Jokin talks about developing connections between guru gamers and newbies in her book on community. It's true. Can she speak on how appropriate or not this feature could be for Duolingo? Ooh, that's a good question. So Duolingo is essentially a single player app, right? It's not a multiplayer. It's not designed as a multiplayer experience or as a community. There are some very light community opt-in features. If you dig and go on the web, you can join forums and stuff. But hooking up experienced people with newcomers is a very, very powerful technique when you have some sort of multiplayer social environment or experience. A lot of people use it. I think in theory, that could be great for Duolingo, but it's operationally that I think it would be harder to do. It's not set up as multiplayer. And just pragmatically, once you've got that, you get into matchmaking and, all kinds of issues that are common in multiplayer gaming and in communities that are expensive and not necessarily easy to implement. So I think in theory, sure, that could be really great. In practice, Duolingo made a decision to keep this single player. And I'll bet they consider doing it multiplayer and hooking people up and all that. But if you look at what Duolingo has accomplished, I think they made a really smart decision. I mean, social design is my bread and butter. I love that. But they might not have been able to make as successful an app that had as big a worldwide impact if they had really made social a key part of it. So I think, what do you think, Davina?
Well, I mean, I think that's all true. And, in this sort of discussion around, can Davina speak some Spanish? And, my desire, my belief that you have to actually speak it with somebody. Wouldn't it be fascinating if, because it's an international app, if I could have a match made through the app, like in digital therapeutics, telemedicine is something that we talk about. Can I talk to a doctor? In fact, I've got One Medical, and it's amazing how quickly you can have somebody on your phone talking to them about something that's important to you and get an answer right away. What if I could, sort of hook up with Carmen in Colombia or something and have a conversation where she wants to speak English and I want to speak Spanish, and we can develop some sort of a regular, discussion around that. That could be really cool and solve a problem for me. Yet I can see how that couldn't have been the way that they scaled and grew. It would have been an absolute tangent to how they were going to find scale in the space that they're in right now.
This is one of the key differences between people that observe games and products and people that make them. Once you start making them, you realize so many trade-offs, that something that sounds great always has a whole big set of trade-offs. So one of the hardest things to do as a product leader is to have the discipline to focus and not do very cool things because they're less scalable or, too expensive to run. It's just part of the reality. And one of the things we really try to do here in this series is pull back the curtain so that you all can see what it's like to really wrestle with these issues as a product builder. So we're getting close to the end of the hour. Davina, thank you so much for your time. We're going to just take a few more questions. Kelly Whitestone says, interesting, it was those full-time Duolingoers that burnt me out on this app. It felt impossible to beat them in the higher leagues. I think that's what you experienced.
It's insane. I watched somebody start from scratch, learn about the leaderboards, really, really get into it, not even myself, and get really burnt out on it and just sort of wonder, what do these people do all day? They've got tens of thousands of experience points. And if you start doing this, you realize how much time that takes up. My best guess is retirees or students who are quite literally learning, hoping to learn a language.
Yep. And again, I think the takeaway for all of us as designers is to be really aware of how very powerful motivational systems can backfire. Mm-hmm. It's true of leaderboards. It's true of these leagues. There's a lot of downside to them motivationally. So you always want to be very, very aware of that when you're building these into your product. Terry Daniels asks, Davina, did you encounter more advanced phrases or a better way of saying things as you leveled up?
Yeah, I did. And there was another thing that Duolingo added, I think last year, which was they started by not giving you any background in grammar. And they would just sort of throw you into it, and you kind of had to intuit how, why did the verb ser change from, in the tenses between the different speakers. Now they give you some of that information, which I think was a good idea. And it gives you a little bit more grounding. But in the stories is where I found the more advanced or maybe more colloquially spoken phrases. It feels more real in the stories than in the structured lessons. And so I think that they've made a real advance with sort of giving you contextual conversations that people might actually be having, in using the words in ways that felt more natural, or because they're going through conversations, they were using words in the way that we might in English. It was a real eye-opener for me, the story section, and that's why I'm such a huge fan of that.
I'm so eager to check it out now. So Roger asks, can Davina share with us how her Spanish skills were useful in Silicon Valley?
Oh, gosh. I mean, just from living in San Francisco, I can use my Spanish with my next door neighbor, whose name actually is Carmen, but she's from El Salvador. And I use Spanish with the folks at the local grocery store. I can use Spanish to understand on the bus as somebody just having an animated conversation or arguing with each other. It's been helpful with some rideshare drivers because sometimes they actually don't have super great English. I mean, it's everywhere we go. And I'm also, just for the record, a huge proponent of multilingualism, and just, to bring it all the way back to Neurotrack and where I am now, learning a second language as a child can build cognitive reserve. Learning a language now is a really great way, even, for me, about ready to go into my 50s, I should be learning a language. We should all be learning a language because it builds new brain cells. It contributes to neurogenesis and to new connections. And so I think that the more languages we can all speak, the better. There's so much diversity out there. And I just love that, again, Duolingo has made the barrier to entry for new languages. It's free. It's on your app. Anybody can do it. And in so many different languages.
That is such a great way to end. That's fantastic. We're going to have to close now. Thank you all for coming. If we didn't get to your question, we will get to it and follow up in the Game Thinking Hub. So if you would like to continue this discussion, if you would like to get access to the replay when we post it and to other upcoming teardowns like this, please join us in the Game Thinking Hub. If you go to gamethinking.io/hub, that URL will take you right there. Just go ahead and apply. We'll let you in, and we can continue this great conversation there. Thank you, Davina, for coming and blessing us with your insights. This was so much fun. I learned so much.
This was really great. Thanks, everybody.